Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for The Bridge, Season 2, Episode 7, Lamia. And I was planning on reviewing this episode to you guys yesterday. I didn't get a chance to. I really wanted to finish that movie. That movie that I ended up not liking. And I wish I would have watched it yesterday, guys, because this episode was absolutely fantastic. I loved everything about this episode. This was by far the best episode of the season. So many amazing things in this episode. You know, so many I think the theme of this episode was truth. No matter what you do, the truth is going to come out. That really was the theme of this episode. Everyone learned some kind of a truth. We, as an audience, learned truths about people. Like, no matter what you do, the truth is going to come out. And I think that's really cool in my opinion. I think it's very cool that that was basically the theme of this episode. And that's really what it seemed to be. That seemed to be like what the deeper meaning of this episode was all about truths. And let's just get to this episode. So we see, and by the way guys, there was everything connected in this episode. Everything's starting to connect. Every storyline is starting to connect. So we're just going to go through the episode. We're not going to go plot by plot by plot because everything's starting to really connect here. So we see Daniel. He is high. He's jamming the music. You know, he has gotten fired from his job because of drug problems, obviously. And he's jamming the music with his sponsor. And he, you know, after losing his job, he has this I don't give a fuck attitude. He doesn't care what he does. Now, we quickly find out that he's still on the case as his sponsor knows someone who can help Daniel get some confidential info related to the investigation. So, Adriana busts his party, and honestly, guys, this whole Daniel-Adriana stuff in this episode was absolutely hilarious. I thought everything with them was very, very funny, in my opinion. I really loved everything that was going on with them. That was definitely very, very funny, and just really, really funny stuff going on with them in this episode. Basically, she is sick of his shit, basically. She's like, come on, we're out of here, you know, we're not doing this, I'm not doing this with you. And she basically takes him to her girlfriend's place to sober up and crash. And Daniel is ruining his sponsor's life. It's very funny to watch. You know, there's this one scene where Adriana and her girlfriend are kissing, and he's like, kiss again. It was just, Daniel was so funny in this episode. Absolute riot to watch, definitely. Those two just, they're best friends, but they get on each other's nerves, and it was very fun to watch, in my opinion. So it looks like they're going to be paying Charlotte and Ray a visit. That's what it looks like it's going to happen here. So Marco and Sonya. Now, Marco, of course, you know, and Sonya, they got into that very bad situation last week. But, of course, Marco says, I'll handle it, don't worry about it. So we see Marco, he is lying under oath to save Sonya, and Robles is backing up the story. Now, even though he knows that Sonya was involved, he uses that to threaten Marco, who then turns it back onto Robles, saying that if he tells anyone about Sonya shooting one of the cops, Marco will send Eva's accusatory affidavit out for everyone to see. So, definitely, he's got a big problem there. So, Sonya is having a very hard time with lies. She really she wants answers. Because if you remember, the whole reason that she started this whole thing with Jack was to get answers about her sister. So she visits Marco because she's very upset he didn't call her after the hearing because he said he would. And Marco tries to soothe her by assuring her that lying protects everyone. And she's still very upset, though. And it gets worse when she finds out that Marco is holding on to Eva's disposition. And he's waiting for the right time to send it out. So, definitely, that's going to be, that definitely was very interesting. And then we get a huge scene here because this is when we see Jack and Sonya, they go to that desert. Because if you remember at the beginning of last episode, we saw Jack go to that desert. And then that thing kind of just ended. We didn't see what happened after that. But he finally decides to tell her about the drawings. And he leads her to the dead body under the water in the desert. And he tells her that this was his brother's special place. And we finally find out what actually happened. Turns out that his brother, Dobbs, actually killed another girl, Bridget, who went missing 6 months before he killed Sonya's sister. So, Sonya is obviously very confused right now. She does not know what to think. And when Hank arrives at the crime scene, he charges at Jack, and they have this whole fight and everything. And basically, we find out that Dobbs was unarmed when Hank shot him. And Jack announces the revelation. Now, Hank's saying, oh, no, don't believe it, don't believe it. And Sonya she doesn't know who to believe, you know, because she is two people saying two different things. She doesn't know who to trust right now, and she just doesn't want them in a fight. I mean, really, really great acting in that scene, definitely. Really great acting. I really love the acting in that scene. So then we see Galven. Now, Galven had one thing to do, if you remember. Galvin was told, he was told, Galvin was told, that he has to, um, actually, it's Galven. Galven was told to read Sarah Solo's book, and he ends up doing that. Basically, we see that he's very much on edge, and we realize that he's actually in hiding since Mexico's new president and administration, they're actually after him. So, Marco pays Galvin a visit to explain why he chose not to kill David Tate after Galven so generously gave him the chance. Because, why didn't he just try to? So basically, Marco's explanation is ultimately inconsequential, since Galven says that he'll just have Tate taking care of himself. He says goodbye to Marco, and it seems like that's the last time they're going to say goodbye to each other. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. So Daniel and Adriana, they follow the housing lead, and they check out the place, and they end up meeting up with Ray. And he shows them around, and Ray backs off, basically. He's backing off, and he reveals that they are journalists. He reveals that they're journalists, basically. And he reveals they're journalists, but by then, Ray has already said way too much. And yeah, so he said way too much to them. So then we see Eleanor's back, and Caesar is there to pick her up from a small airfield in the desert. Eleanor was not in the last episode. And apparently Caesar is reading into erotic vampire stories, which captures Eleanor's interest. She asks him about the cops he saw at the house, and they drive off. So then Hank brings in Sonya. Now, she is not necessarily happy at him. She's not happy at all. He apologizes, and she asks if what Jack said to her was true. She says, look, I don't want your apology. I just want to know the truth here. And Hank admits to shooting Dobbs to protect her. And he tells her that he tracked Dobbs to the hotel with intentions of arresting him. But then he remembered Sonya's expression when she learned that her sister was killed. And he knew what he had to do. He broke down the door. Dobbs came, shot him in the head, but he didn't kill him. Now, Sonya says this was not his choice to make. And I agree with Sonya here. The only reason she came to this police force was to find who killed her sister. That's the only reason she's doing this. The only reason that she's been with Hank all this time is to know who is doing this. The only reason she's been, she's looked up to Hank like a father figure, basically. And she really just doesn't want to talk to him right now. Hank's saying, it was my choice to make, and even though it was his choice, he says he's going to call the DA to make his statement, to tell the truth of what he did. He asked Sonya for forgiveness, but she's obviously not going to forgive him. It makes sense why she's not going to. Because why would she forgive someone who would lie to her like this? Why would she do something like that? It does not make sense on why she would lie, why she would forgive him. Definitely. I don't blame him. I don't blame her for not forgiving him. She has every right to be mad at him, definitely. But that scene was definitely very intense. Really love that. Really good stuff going on there. So then we see Marco. He visits David Tate again, only to watch him from outside his room. And this might be a final goodbye to him, possibly. I don't know. That's all we really saw. So then we see Monty. He introduces Charlotte and Ray to Eleanor, and she asks to speak to Charlotte alone, but Ray obnoxiously declares that he'd like to take part in this meeting. Eleanor silently lets it go, even when Ray asks what's in it for us, and she says you get to live, can't really argue with that. And then we get probably one of the things we've been waiting for all season. We finally find out Eleanor's backstory, which I really loved hearing, definitely. She tells the story of a girl who was raped by a man repeatedly and cast out of her community, and Galven was the one who found the girl. And, Galven shot the man's wife, and because she asked for vengeance, who never stopped the man, despite knowing what he was doing to the poor girl. Galven took the man, castrated him, fed his parts to the dog, and turned the man into a pet for Eleanor. And, that is definitely very just brutal and horrifying. It's just horrifying, definitely. So, definitely very horrifying. So, Charlotte asks what happened to the girl, and Eleanor says she survived. And this makes Charlotte and Ray understand their roles in this whole operation. And Ray tells her about the journalist that stopped by, and Eleanor says that she'll take care of them. Tonight, they try not to trifle with Galven and Eleanor. Sorry, I'm getting a text message. Basically, another scene, the head DEA agent confronts and basically Charlotte makes an attempt to stay a step ahead. So when she says that, basically what she's saying is that she is going to go after Daniel and Adriana. And yeah, so that was definitely very, very big. So Marco's then at the bar talking to a girl that's probably one of his friends. And he says he's not a hero like the papers say. He admits her when she asks him about it. She goes on to tell him about how her daughter disappeared 2 years ago. And more cops like him are needed. And the scene then jumps to Marco. Now, I'm wondering about something. She said her daughter disappeared 2 years ago. Now, Jack had said to Hank that, Jack had said to Hank, basically, that, Jack had said to Sonya that basically, that there was a girl who went missing 6 months before he killed Sonya's sister. Sonya's sister, I believe, died 2 years ago. Now, don't quote me on that, but is this girl that Marco was talking to, Bridget's mother? Is that who that is? Yes, is that Bridget's mother? That's what I'm trying to figure out here. Is that Bridget's mother? I think it could be. It does make sense, her daughter went disappearing 2 years ago. She doesn't know anything about her. It makes perfect sense in my opinion. Definitely, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, so, now when Eleanor says she'll get something done, she means it. She goes over to Adriana's girlfriend, Lucy, who gets stabbed by an unknown intruder. She arrives home, but she fights back by stabbing her attacker until she is dead. So, basically, Adriana, it's a very sad scene. Adriana arrives home to see Lucy unconscious, and it's really, really sad. I really felt bad for Adriana in that scene. Really, I did. I felt really bad for her. And then we see something very interesting. We see Charlotte, the head DEA agent, confronts Charlotte about her, about her distress call. Now, Charlotte plays dumb at first. She doesn't know, she says, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. But eventually, she says she wants to make a deal. And the DEA knows her involvement with, Galven. She's going to either help him find Galven, or she's going to go to jail. So, she has a very important decision to make. Does she want to help him find Galven, track down Galven, or does she want to go to jail? She has a very difficult decision to make. I'm sure she's going to choose the first option because I'm sure she doesn't want to go to jail, obviously. So we'll have to see what she ends up choosing. But I think that's a very interesting ultimatum that she's left with, definitely. I'm really looking forward to see what's going to happen to her there, definitely. So then we see Jack. He comes to Sonya's place. She wants nothing to do with him. Because, again, the only reason that she, was there with him was because she wanted answers. And he admits that he knew since he saw the pictures, but also knew about Bridget from the beginning. He was afraid to say anything because he was 13 years old at the time. And, Sonya wants nothing more to do with him. She doesn't have room in her life for liars. And, she says she got her answers, or at least the most she could ever get. And Jack always knew that was why she had him stick around. And I think Jack truly does care about her. You can see that Jack truly does care. You can see that. But the thing is, right now, Sonya does not trust him. And I don't blame her for not trusting him. I really don't blame her. I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen there. I don't blame Sonya for not trusting him. She has a right to not trust him, especially the fact that he lied to her about all this. I mean, definitely, it makes sense why she doesn't trust him. But is she going to gain his trust later? I don't know. He's going to have to do something to get her to gain his trust. Then we see a very cool scene. We see Marco still playing off his hero act, and even though he doesn't think of himself as a hero, we can see how uncomfortable the whole thing really makes him. He's talking to a class of children at school, and the kids are asking him the tough questions about what it means to be good or bad, and there's not really a lot being said there, he's not really answering their questions. And we then see a scene that's intercut with a prison scene. We see a nurse or guard going up to David Tate to his bed, and she injects something into Tate, and he starts convulsing, and then he dies. So, I guess that's the end of that storyline. Alright, I guess that's the end of that. So yeah, then we see a very good, I love the scene at the end here. Sonya makes a visit to Bridget's family home. Bridget's mother opens the door to see her long-lost daughter's purse in Sonya's hand, and Sonya's there to tell her what actually happened to Bridget, and that is going to be huge, because now she's going to have Bridget's mother involved with this. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Bridget's mother's reaction is going to be, if she knew the whole time, or I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen here, definitely. Now, I have a lot of questions now, besides this. First of all, is Jack going to do something to gain Sonya's trust? Because I'm sure he truly does care about her. He has to do something. Hank as well. Jack and Hank have to think of something to gain Sonya's trust, because she does not trust them right now at all. She really doesn't. Adriana's girlfriend, Lucy. I felt really bad for Adriana in this episode. I really hope Lucy is okay. I really hope she's not dead. We're going to see what happens there. Even though Daniel and Adriana, they're not going to let anything stop them from solving this case and, writing this book. Writing the journal. I still really felt bad for her, definitely. Also, is the woman, what's with Marco? What is going to happen with Marco? Of course, he doesn't want to be like a hero. He really doesn't. He doesn't think, he's not really a hero. We're going to have to see what happens there, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And also, Charlotte. What is she going to do? Is she going to, go after Galven, or is she going to go to jail? She has a very difficult decision to make there. It's going to be very interesting to definitely see what ends up happening there. And, also, is Marco going to find out that David Tate was killed? Now, of course, he did, tell Galven, why he chose not to kill David Tate. I'm thinking maybe Galven set up the attack or something. I'm not sure. There's a lot going on, definitely. There's definitely a lot going on now, and I love the reveal of Eleanor as well, really. It got us to care for Eleanor more, definitely. Again, they're slowly humanizing her. This scene actually really humanized her, in my opinion. I really liked hearing the thing that she said. And, basically, she's after Daniel and Adriana, and it looks like it's going to get a lot more interesting now. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. I love this episode. That was absolutely fantastic. And that's it, my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you guys in my next video, which will be my review for tonight's episode of The Nick, or either a movie review or tonight's episode of The Nick. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.